Mae'Govannen. Today is going to be just a short video, something that I was really moved to do after watching some actions of some others in the Elven community, and I really felt moved to go ahead and speak. So today is just a very short video. In the next couple of days I'll be doing our normal weekly video, and that one will be on the many levels of Elven manifestation and things that we can do in our lives to learn to manifest as an Elven people, and what we can do to bring that out in our lives. But today is just a short little video, and this one's going to be, as you saw from the description, this is the Tolkien canon and how the Elven community is becoming more divided over this. It's not just within Tolkien. I've noticed that within the Elven community that there is becoming a larger and larger division and it seems to be more specific in the Tolkien canon. So let's talk about that for just a few minutes. I just wanted to express how I was feeling about what I've been seeing lately, and I'm hoping that this will make a difference and that we can all work together to, again, as we always say in these videos, work together to awaken our Elven selves and to allow it to awaken others, because the community needs to come together if we want to accomplish what we want, and that is a worldwide awakening of our Elven natures. All right, I've been watching over the past few weeks that there seems to be, as I said, a division, especially within the Tolkien Elven community. There are those that, I guess I'll just put it very plainly, take the Tolkien canon, the Tolkien literature, extremely literally. All right, and I get it. I absolutely get it. That is a common thread throughout human history, especially within most religions. People tend to take the written word literally, when I think what was really meant to be over the long haul of human history is the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. You have to remember that man interprets things, and man rewrites it and rewrites it and rewrites it over the thousands of years. And sad to say, but already in such a short period of time, it has already happened within the Tolkien Elven community. All right, we've been watching people attack others for such things as, were elves vegan or were elves vegetarian? Okay, well, Tolkien said this, okay, but Tolkien said that. Another one is, okay, men and elves are completely different, and therefore man cannot be elves, and elves cannot be man, and man cannot evolve into elves. And yet that's not supported within the Tolkien canon. Again, it is more important to support each other and to allow for an open-mindedness to others' opinions instead of attacking them, especially on YouTube. I see it on YouTube, I see it on Facebook, where people are attacking each other and they're saying they're laughing at them. It's really not necessary. If you don't agree with someone, absolutely. One of the most powerful tools we have within any community, and it can be that way within the Elven community, is the tool of debate. It's wonderful to debate, because I might think I'm right, you might think you're right, and yet maybe we're both right and maybe we're both wrong on different levels, and maybe through debate, through conscious, compassionate, open-minded debate, we can learn from each other instead of making fun of each other, hitting thumbs down on videos. All right, if you don't like something, that's absolutely your call, and everyone has their own path to walk and at their own pace. So let others do that. Let others take that opportunity to walk their path, even if you don't agree with it. But let's talk for just a couple of minutes about the Tolkien canon and how literal do we take things. All right. Well, if you will look at let's go ahead and say that Tolkien was a prophet, was a seer. I tend to agree with that to a large extent. I think that Tolkien was moved beyond something other than just his imagination. In a letter Tolkien once wrote, someone asked him and said, do you really believe that you wrote these? Just that you made up these stories? And Tolkien kind of hesitated, and then he came back and he says, no, I don't really believe I did. I don't believe that this was just my imagination, that he was moved to write these things. He was inspired to write them. All right, so for sake of argument, let's say that Tolkien was a seer, was a prophet. He was a visionary. He could see things beyond the ordinary. That doesn't make him infallible, and he wouldn't have wanted to have been considered infallible. I had the opportunity many years ago to help write a book on Edgar Cayce, and it was a medical book. Obviously, for me, it was a medical book, a book of healing, and I was to write this book, and so I had the opportunity for I think it was about 2.5 years where I was able to live right across the street from the Edgar Cayce Institute, the ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment. That was a great opportunity and honor to live right across the street from it. And so I literally every week, days and days of each week, I would go across the street and I would study their writings, the readings of Edgar Cayce, and from a medical point of view, and I would then write chapters to this book on the different disorders and diseases that he would talk about. For you, those of you who do not know who Edgar Cayce is, please Google, look up, take a look, Ecosia, look him up on the web and see who he was. He was a wonderful seer, a wonderful visionary, a wonderful prophet. This is back in the early 1900s. He was just a photographer. Okay, not that that's just a photographer, but he was a photographer, not a doctor. Zero medical training, no training whatsoever. And it was discovered that he could go into a trance and people could ask him questions. And they would ask about medical issues, even about people who were thousands of miles away, he had never met. And he would, in this trance, he was called the Sleeping Prophet, was actually his nickname, and he would give the cure for these people. And there are thousands and thousands of readings that are free to the general public to go to Virginia Beach and go to the area, and you can actually read and go through almost like it's like a library. And you can go look up the readings on pancreatitis or diabetes or colon cancer. You pretty much name it, you'll find it there. He was so accurate that to this day, doctors from around the world still go to the ARE and look up what he said to do for such a disease and such a disease. Remember, no medical training, so very often it was quite unorthodox. It could be herbal healing, it could be electromagnetic, there were also, but it worked. It worked. Here's a man who knew nothing about medicine, and it was quite well proven that this man had no experience in it, and yet he would give these accurate readings. Okay, wonderful, amazing man. And yet, as the years went by and the readings became more and more complex, people started asking questions outside of medicine. They started asking questions about Atlantis and about the life on other worlds and immortality. And even here, he gave wonderful insights. But what was obvious is that he was a mortal. And mortals can bring in, they can color life, they can see it through their own lenses, and can have a tendency to then basically direct some of their, or project some of their personality into the readings. And so he started making predictions. Some of those predictions did come true, but some of them did not come true. All right, and some of them have yet to maybe come true. But you could see that he was projecting at times his personality onto the readings, and it was obvious that this was more Cayce than it was maybe the actual literal truth. It didn't diminish who he was. It just meant that he was immortal. He was a man, and he would have a tendency to allow his emotions and his coloring go on to the vision. The same with Tolkien. In fact, Tolkien admitted that many, many times. His son Christopher admitted it, that Tolkien was constantly changing things and altering them. And when he passed away around 1974, I think it was, he was still rewriting. He was still changing things. He would see maybe the vision more clearly or differently, but he kept changing it, or I should say fine-tuning or modifying it as the years went by. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with that. In the Book of Lost Tales, Part 1, there's a couple of interesting paragraphs by Christopher Tolkien. And this is when, because remember, when Tolkien passed away, the Silmarillion did not exist. It was just a whole bunch of writing in different chapters and different sections. It wasn't a book. It was a lot of writing. All right? And it came to Christopher Tolkien to decide, is this a book? Is this something that I should do? And this is what he wrote. He said, "The choice before me in respect of the Silmarillion was threefold. I could withhold it indefinitely from publication on the ground that the work was incomplete and incoherent between its parts." Incoherent. between its parts. I could accept the nature of the work as it stood, and, to quote my foreword to the book, attempt to present the diversity of the material. All right. Okay, to show the Silmarillion as a truth. Okay, in truth, a continuing and evolving creation extending over more than half a century. All right. In truth, a continuing, all right, and evolving work. All right, evolving. Isn't that what we all are doing? And Tolkien evolved throughout his visions, throughout his writing. They evolved. And so it doesn't mean, and as he also put here, I want to make sure I said this, that it was an incomplete work. Not everything that Tolkien envisioned was put into the Silmarillion. Not everything he envisioned did he write down. So my argument is that, yes, I do believe that all elves were vegan, even though some people will argue and say, well, Lothlorien maybe and Rivendell maybe, but not Mirkwood, okay, not the forest elves there, because they hunted. Okay, but we don't really know what all that was. What did they hunt? All right, were they hunting the dark creatures? Or was that Tolkien coloring it? All right, we don't know. I believe in my heart I know. All right, and so that's how I feel. You may feel different. Let's debate. Let's talk about it. Let's evolve together as Tolkien was evolving. Let's share. That's what part of an elven culture is. Let's share, let's grow together, let's figure out what is in the long run, what is the truth. And for many people, the truth can be something different. All right, so that's what he talked about in there. Now if we go, let's go to another page here real quick. Okay, and this was again a quote by Christopher Tolkien. All right. The other point I wanted to make is that, and Tolkien was very specific in this, and he actually makes another comment here. No information do we have today in any of the Tolkien canon actually came from the elves of that time. Not a one. All of it came from man meeting the elves and then writing down what the elves taught them. But it wasn't an elf came here today and quoted something and taught us today. It was man learning from the elves of the past and then passing their history on to us. Okay, I think most people know this little game that you can do in like kindergarten or first grade. I actually do remember having done something similar to this, where all the children are sitting in a circle and your teacher comes up and whispers a story, very short story in your ear. And your job is to whisper into that child's ear, and then that child's to whisper in the next ear, and it goes here and it goes all the way around. By the time it gets back to you, that child then tells what the story is. And the teacher then will say, well, this is what the story was. And without fail, by the time it gets around to the other child, it can significantly change from the original. So that doesn't mean that what we've learned from the Tolkien canon isn't accurate. It just may be incomplete, and that maybe some people have colored a little bit. The good news is it hasn't been that long since Tolkien. But even his own son said that it is incomplete, and it is still evolving. All right, so what Tolkien said, and this was again in the Book of Lost Tales Part 1, Christopher Tolkien reiterates it. And Ariel himself, close kin of famous figures in the legends of northwestern Europe, came at last on a voyage westward over the ocean to Tol Eressëa, the lonely isle where elves dwelt, and from them he learned the lost tales of Elvenesse. Okay, but his role was at first to be more important in the structure of the work than it was afterwards, simply that a man of later days who came to the land of the fairies and there acquired lost or hidden knowledge, which he afterwards reported in his own tongue. Now we know when you change from one language to another language and it continues on, some things will change, some things may become hidden again, or may be misinterpreted. All right? A prime, beautiful example of the world today is the Holy Bible. All right? It was originally written in Aramaic and ancient Greek. I don't know how many of you, because I have read the Holy Bible from Old Testament to New Testament front to back multiple times because I wanted to learn about the religions of the world. Okay, I've studied it in modern language. I've studied it in some of the Aramaic and ancient Greek. They are very, very different. The interpretation is incredibly different. The wording was changed. Okay, that doesn't mean that the basic spirit of the law, the basic truth that might be in that book, isn't still there. But to make the mistake of taking it literally, you're losing something. You're missing out on an opportunity to understand what was really written, okay, what was really intended in the writing. And the same goes for Tolkien. Tolkien did a lot of writing and did a lot of visionary work, and we have the gift today of that work. But it is a work that is still evolving. There are things within the Tolkien Institute that still have to this day not been released. They may get released one day, or it may continue to do as they have been doing. Just piecemeal, a little bit every so many years they release and they let us know. All right, so you don't know the complete picture. I don't know the complete picture. So instead of attacking each other, let's go, okay, I have one view, you have another view, let's debate. Let's talk about it, but let's do it as children of Eru. Let's do it with love and compassion and understanding of each other. Because who knows who's got the right story yet? We're all growing, we're all evolving. And in the end, isn't it important that we all simply reawaken to our elven selves and proceed to help others do that? And we can't do that with a rigid mind. A rigid mind will rarely discover anything new. Water flows and ice blocks. It's up to you what kind of mind that you want to have. All right? So I hope this helps. I just wanted to express how I would love to see all of us, especially in the Elven community, when the world doesn't look too well at us anyway, that we can be joining together and working together and discovering together. All right? Anyway, it was a pleasure talking to all of you. I will be back on in the next couple of days or so about Elven manifestation. Until then, all of you have a most blessed day. Namaste.